What if you got lost and not in the woods and not in space, but in an endless office building with no exits? So when the Backrooms teaser trailer dropped not too long ago, I knew absolutely nothing about it. My son is the one who sent me the teaser trailer and said, "Hey, you've got to check this out." And instantly, I was intrigued. The space alone had me hooked. So with the help of my son, I started digging into this backrooms phenomenon. And I found out that this whole thing was created by this young YouTuber named Kane Parsons. And honestly, I was genuinely really pleased with it. And with the release of the official trailer of the Backrooms movie coming out in May, I decided I need to do this video. So let's talk about it. Now, it goes without saying that the set or this space, it's the star of this film. But before I get into all that, let me give you a little foundation, because if you don't understand the Backrooms, then you're not going to understand why this film works. The Backrooms started as a creepypasta, a single image posted online in 2019. It was an empty room with yellow wallpaper, wet carpet, fluorescent lights, no doors, no windows, no people, and a single caption that read, "If you are not careful and you no clip out of reality, you will end up here." That image broke the internet, not because it was graphic and not because it was violent. It was because it tapped into something ancient, the fear of being lost with no way back. Humans are wired for navigation. We orient ourselves constantly. Landmarks, sounds, light sources, but the back room strips all of that away. Every hallway looks the same. Every room leads to another room. There's just no exit anywhere. You just wander around until you can't anymore. Kane Parsons understood this and he built an entire film around it. So let's get into the film itself. But I want to be clear that this is a YouTube film made by a teenager with what I can only assume is a fraction of a Hollywood budget. But none of that matters, because what Kane Parsons does right is something that money can't buy. First off, the setting does all the work. The production design is almost too good. Now, I want to be clear. When I first saw this, I thought this was an actual physical set. And it wasn't until my son told me that no, that he used a computer program to create this world. But none of that matters, because the endless hallways, the corridors, the identical rooms, the way the camera moves, slightly too fast, slightly too shaky, it just creates disorientation that's all intentional. And the crazy part is that you stop trusting your own sense of direction while you're watching it. And that's not an accident. That is craft. Second, the found footage format is done correctly here. I've talked about found footage before on this channel. Most filmmakers use it as a budget shortcut, but Parson uses it as a psychological weapon.
Hey guys, do you hear this? Hey! Guys. Guys? George? Morgan! Fuck. Hey!
The camera just doesn't document events. It makes you feel like you are the one that's lost. The shaky frame, the breathing, the moment the protagonist stops talking because they realize talking doesn't help. That silence is when the film gets under your skin. Third, the pacing. Nothing happens for long stretches in this film. And I mean that as a total compliment. Real dread doesn't announce itself. Real dread builds. It accumulates. And if you've ever been in a situation where the threat isn't visible, but you know something is wrong, you know exactly what this film is doing. The Backrooms just doesn't show you the monster right away. It makes you wait for it. And the waiting is worse. Here's the thing that they don't put in the trailer. The monster in this film isn't the creature. It's the building. And the dialogue is stiff in a few places. And this is a film first. Some of the characters' interactions feel written more than spoken. The emotional beats land better when the characters stop talking, and Parson is more effective with silence than with conversation. And that's actually a useful self awareness for a director that is still learning. And finally, and probably the most important, is that this film is not for everyone. If you need to kill every 15 minutes, you need to look elsewhere. If you need resolution, look elsewhere. The Backrooms doesn't give you closure, it gives you dread, and then it ends. That is a creative choice, not a flaw. And if you know that going in, you're going to enjoy this film. Before we get into why the Backrooms works on a psychological level, and trust me, this is where it gets interesting, make sure you've hit that subscribe button. This channel is where horror, survival, and chaos collide. And if you're new here, you're gonna want to stick around, I promise. Here's what I want you to understand, and this is what most horror reviewers skip. The Backrooms is not a supernatural fear, it's a primal one. I spent years in the US Coast Guard with navigation training with zero visibility drills. Environments where your instruments are wrong and your only instincts is your only tool you have. And the thing that breaks people, the thing that causes the most psychological damage, isn't the danger itself, it's the uncertainty. It's not knowing which direction leads to safety. And this No Escape a Backrooms film weaponizes that. Every hallway in this film is a decision point with no good information. Do I go left? Do I go right? Do I go up? Do I go down? It sounds like it's getting closer, or is that ventilation? You can't know that, and you can't stop moving. That's not a fictional fear. That's a documented psychological phenomenon known as sensory disorientation, decision fatigue, the slow collapse of basic reasoning under sustained stress. And Kane Parsons, whether he knows it or not, made a film about what actually breaks human beings. And it's not monsters, it's not violence, it's uncertainty without end. Now ask yourself honestly, how long would you last in that building with no phone signal, no landmarks, no help coming? Most people wouldn't last a day before the panic set in. The theatrical version of this YouTube film drops in May, and I want to talk about what that means to this story. Kane Parsons went from a YouTube short to a YouTube movie to a theatrical release in what might be the most impressive creator trajectory that I've covered on this channel. And here's why it matters to you as horror fans. This YouTube film is proof of concept. It is Parsons showing you what he can do with almost nothing. Now, with this theatrical release, he has a real budget, a real crew, and a real sound design. Has a potential to genuinely disturb fans in a way that mainstream horror hasn't been able to do in a few years. The question is whether he can keep the restraint, whether the studio system pushes him toward more conventional scares and away from the thing that makes the Backrooms film work, the absence of resolution. And if I had a chance to give advice to the theatrical version, trust the silence. Trust the building. Don't explain the monster. The moment you explain it, you've destroyed it. I'll be covering the theatrical release the moment it drops. Watch this video first so you know exactly what you're walking into when you sit down in that theater. It is one of the most effective pieces of psychological horror that I've seen on this platform, and I'm not exaggerating. It understands something that most big budget horror films have forgotten. That you don't need to show the people everything. That you don't need to show the audience something terrifying. You need to make them feel something they can't escape. And that's what this actually does. Drop your prediction in the comments below. Do you think the theatrical version will be able to keep the restraint, or will the studio push them forward with the crappy conventional jump scares? If you are new to my channel and you've enjoyed this topic, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss other great topics like this that I've got coming down the pike. Doesn't cost you anything, helps me out quite a bit. So until next time, go check out my other videos. Make sure you check out No Escape, a Backrooms film. But more importantly, don't get too scared. Take care, guys.